Welcome to Paranormal Latte Podcast. I am your host, Dr. Kelly Renee Schutz. Sit back and relax with us. Grab yourself a really good drink. Spend an hour and let's delve into a world of chatter about the mysteries of the unexplained. Whether you are a skeptic or a believer makes no difference. It's not always in your imagination. Enjoy your day. Now that was good. We are broadcasting on the United Public Radio and UFO Paranormal Radio Networks 105.3 FM from the Gulf Coast and 107.7 FM in New Orleans. The views and opinions expressed by the host and guests do not necessarily reflect those of the audience, United Public Radio and UFO Paranormal Radio Networks, its hosts, affiliates, and or Paranormal Latte Podcast, Paranormal Universal Press LLC, and Diamond Point Entertainment LLC. This show is pre-recorded. Now that was good. Good day, everyone. Yes, indeed. Welcome to yet another episode of Paranormal Latte Podcast. My name is Dr. Kelly Renee Schutz. I am the host and the producer of this show. In just a moment, we're going to learn just a little bit more about my special guest today. Tommy Cullum is in the house, and he lives across the pond, and he is quite a podcaster, and he's also a paranormal / cryptid / otherworldly researcher investigator. So sit back for just a moment here and let's learn just a little bit more about my special guest, Tommy Cullum. My guest this evening is Tommy Cullum. Tommy is a dynamic content creator and the captivating host of Tommy Cullum's Let's Get Freaky podcast, where he fearlessly delves into the enigmatic realms of the paranormal, UFOs, cryptids, and everything else in between. Tommy leaves no stone unturned in his quest to unravel the mysteries that lie beyond the veil of the ordinary. Tommy's fascination with the supernatural was ignited at a tender age as he grew up in eerie confines of a haunted house. We have a lot to talk about this evening, and we certainly did, so please sit back, grab yourself a pillow, and enjoy the show. Please welcome Tommy Cullum. Well, welcome, Tommy. Welcome back.
Hello. Thank you very much. I'm excited to be here.
Oh, I'm excited to have you back. I had Tommy on the show. Oh, my goodness. I can't remember if it was like a year and a half ago. Really, really great interview and had such a good time with you. Had to get you back. So I think we should have you tell everybody a little bit about yourself, a little bit about where you, vaguely where you live, and then we'll roll from there.
Awesome. Well, it's a pleasure to be back. Thank you very much. I lose track of time as well. I have no idea where we are. No. But I am from the UK, so I live in Dorset in the UK. I'm originally from Essex, which is right next to London, and I've had a lot of weird paranormal experiences throughout my life that kind of definitely the reason why I do the podcast that I do, Let's Get Freaky, where, like yourself, I meet amazing people, share experiences, discuss ideas of high strangeness. There's a lot of weird stuff in this world, as we know, and I've experienced enough, I would say, to know that there is a lot more around us that we can't always see, that is going on around us, and I find it fascinating. It does scare me at the same time. I do get very scared still, but I find it super interesting.
Yeah, and I just think that last time Tommy and I think we talked just a little bit. I know I've gone over the pond, as we would call it over here, over the pond to do some light investigation work. I would say I'm a citizen researcher. I try not to go at this really, really strongly because I usually have things come to me, and I did have a number of experiences over there. Probably more so on the scarier side. Not to say it's scary over there. I'm just saying where I was.
It is scary. It is scary.
Well, you got, yeah, actually, now that you think about it, I've got to rethink that, but yeah, because I went over though to figure out if the apparitions or the ghosts or the energy over there was different than what I experience here. And there's such a mixed bag on that because I can't remember. Have you been to the US yet? I can't remember.
I haven't yet. I feel like I have. It's very strange. I'm always talking to people in the US. I've got a lot of friends in the US.
Yeah.
My dad used to work a lot of the time in the US, which is probably why we didn't go on vacation to the US because he was always working there. Yeah. But my goal is to one day be in the US. Which I'd love to. New England is where I want to live, that kind of area. Obviously, I love the UK as well, but I don't know. I feel like I want to get to the US. And I think you got a lot more Bigfoot over there, a lot more Bigfoot activity and things like that. And that's why I want to be there. But it'd be interesting to see because I feel like we're all the same wherever we are in the world. I talk to people in Australia, people in the US, all over the place, Asia. We're all experiencing the same things when it comes to the paranormal. Sometimes we put a different name on these things, but ultimately we're all experiencing the same. And I find that so interesting.
Yeah. It is, and the thing is the depending on the energy or where you're at, and not only that, but maybe the environment or time of year or whatever might also play a big part. Because some people that I know have come over. Well, a lot of people come over and they want to run around the castles, including myself, because they think that there's going to be some kind of apparition floating through or whatever. And sometimes there is. But there was a point, though, I remember a couple of years ago when people were saying stuff like, I don't know if the castles are really haunted anymore because I just didn't seem to have an experience, or maybe every 500 years, what used to be there is decided to move on and all that. I don't know. I'm going to ask you, Tommy, what are your thoughts? Because you've got so many castles over there.
Loads.
What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I live very close to Corfe Castle, which I believe is over 1,000 years old. It was William the Conqueror lived there, was a part of building the castle, and it's pretty much half ruins now. It's basically ruins, and there's so many ghost stories there. I've talked to people that have experienced a lot of wild stuff there. There's a knight that supposedly haunts the grounds, and I've actually spoke to someone that was camping just outside the castle in a field, and they woke up during the night in their tent to what, at the time they didn't really realise what it was. It wasn't until like the next day that they put it all together, but they saw like the shape of a knight in their tent. So there's stuff like that. I do feel like these, for whatever reason, these places, they hold energy, that goes into what are ghosts. And I think there's different types of entities, ghosts, whatever we want to call them. But I do feel like these places hold the energy. Because I go to the castle, and I touch them walls and you're like, oh man, think of the things this place has seen, and there's something to that energy is there,
Mm-hmm. One of the questions I have is, so I've stayed in a good handful of castles there, and I've had experiences in every place that I've been because I'm kind of a beacon anyway. But I'm just wondering, what are your thoughts on on when, like, I'm going to use the cement walls as an example here, because I don't know if a lot of people ever really think about this, whether or not they've ever been cleaned with a pressure hose or something along that lines, because you know how dirty these walls would be after, what, 1,000 years old, 500 years old. There's a lot of that can get, trapped in this. I don't really know the answer to this because I've never seen anyone cleaning the castle from the outside or on the inside.
That's a good point.
But do you know, and would that even retain energy at all? Because I agree with you. I know limestone in particular, copper type of wiring, I know those types of things have a tendency to affect, the energies and stuff like that. But I don't even know what these cement walls are made of on some of these castles over there. Do you? You have any idea?
No, that's a good point. And I mean, you would guess that they would have to clean the walls, to keep them looking presentable, because obviously people are coming to pay to see these things. Yeah. So I would imagine that there is some level of cleaning. But you're right. I mean, I don't know. I'm not sure, to be honest. Yeah. But it'd be interesting to know. I'm pretty sure, because I'm pretty close to like Stonehenge as well. Oh. 40 minutes from Stonehenge, which is a very strange area, as you can imagine, full of high strangeness. I believe they have cleaned the stones before, the Stonehenge stones, but I'm not 100% sure on that either. So I don't know, to be honest, but I imagine that they would have to. If these things are 1,000 years old. I mean, you look at the castle near me, and it's half standing. It's not what it was, but yeah.
Yeah, I was at Stonehenge. Oh my God. Few years back, I mean, maybe 10 years back or so, give or take. Those stones look pretty clean, but then again, they're out in the middle of, like, I call it a not a field, but a big open area. And so, of course, you got the sun beating on them all day long and all this sort of thing. And you wonder how far down the stone actually goes underground, not just what you see above people, but also underneath the ground as well, and everything. I didn't have anything weird happened there, but it was very hot that day, and we just walked. We did like the tourists had to do, stay on the sidewalk or whatever it was and walk around the circle of the Stonehenge. I don't know if anyone was even per se allowed to go up to the stones. I think we did have a picture by a stone or something, but I don't know. I can't remember. But yeah, what kinds of things have you heard about things that have happened around there? Do you remember any stories on the Stonehenge area?
Well, you get, obviously that's an area where you get a lot of crop circle activity as well. Yeah. You get a lot of crop circles around there, which still goes on to this day. There's still new crop circles, and I know that can be kind of controversial, but you look at some of these crop circles and they're incredible, and you think there's no way that a person's done that in the night with a ruler or whatever they say they're doing it with. There's no way. But it's weird with Stonehenge. When I was a kid, because obviously, so when I was living in London, we would go on holiday to Cornwall every summer, and we'd always drive past Stonehenge and stop off just to have a look at it. Now, I've got these memories as a kid of getting out the car and walking up to the stones and actually being in the stones. And I had recently, not too long ago, I had Matt Pike on the show, on my podcast, and he works at Stonehenge, and he said that for the last, what would have been my life, you've never been able to do that. But I've got memories of doing that as a kid. We used to go up, and apparently there was like a guard that would stay on the stones, and sometimes he would leave. So he said maybe in those points you could have got to the stones, but very rare that people could actually get up to touch the stones. It's very hard now. Like it's cordoned off. You can't just walk up to the stones now. But I've got these memories as a kid of doing that. But they're magical, to see them start. There's again that whole area is, Matt Pike said as well, it's not really been investigated what's underneath Stonehenge. Right. So there's probably a lot of mysteries there that are just waiting to be found.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I found it pretty amazing. But yeah, I mean, I remember when we got out, I think we were on some kind of a shuttle or a tour bus, or maybe we parked. I don't know. But I just remember we all had to stay and we did this big circle that we had to walk around. And I can't remember if they created a sidewalk or a path, but it was definitely something. And yeah, there was also, I'm not going to call it a barrier, but there was like this, thing around it that's, do not, and as well as I do that somebody, at night, I don't know what people do at night there, because if it's guarded, I want to use the word guard, but guarded pretty well during the daytime because of all the mass amounts of people. I wonder what happens there sometimes at night, because, it'd be easy then of course, it'd be very pitch dark. I mean, there is no light out there. So unless, you get enough moonlight, but I agree with you. Those crop circles, I haven't yet interviewed anyone on the show yet that I tried to grab a couple crop circle people that wanted to share their things, but that didn't pan out. But I agree with you. How can somebody take their ruler or whatever you want to call it and create these unbelievable designs overnight? It just, I don't know. You would think it would take and perfect too. Yeah. Nice and perfect and everything. That's just what seems really strange to me. I haven't heard of any crop circles lately in the U.S. Have you heard of anything more happening over there?
I've seen reports of new crop circles.
Really?
I'm not too, in like near Stonehenge and stuff like that. There's definitely been some this year, I believe. Some in Germany as well. I think I read an article the other day. There's some in Germany. But yeah, I find it very hard to believe that. I mean, some of them might be man-made, but I find it hard to believe some of them are incredible. They're just like, and they're perfect from above. They're absolutely perfect.
Yeah.
There's just. For me, I don't know why. I mean, I guess I understand why some people would come forward and claim that they've made them because, but I don't know. I don't know. It's very strange. It's a very strange one and quite a controversial one, because obviously some people will say, they're hoaxes, but some of them are just too amazing, in my opinion, to be a hoax. Yeah. Let's see them make these perfect shapes.
I know. It's just unbelievable.
And they do it at night as well. How could they?
That's exactly when you can't see anything. So you're sitting here in this field, well, essentially ruining somebody's crops or whatever and damaging them by stepping them down when you think about it, right? And it's just like, that's not only just, it's beautiful. Well, it might be beautiful, but think of the damage that it just did to the person's crops. So, I wouldn't be very happy about that. People don't usually think of that. They just think of the after effect of what happened. Have you had any reports over there lately of any kind of UFOs or anything in the area? Do you guys even report on that? Because over here, it's like, things are kind of hush-hush unless people are doing social media or something like that.
Yeah, it's pretty much the same here, to be honest. It is pretty much. There's constantly UFO reports, but it's more like, on X and, platforms like that where you're going to find it. There's been a big spout. Do you remember last year in New Jersey when we was getting the drone reports, when everyone was freaking out because there was all sorts of different drones going over New Jersey, and that was kind of happening in other places as well, but New Jersey was like it was happening a lot there, and there was so many. It was like every day there was hundreds of them. It started happening in Denmark. I don't know if you've seen that.
Oh no, has it really?
It's been happening in Denmark the last week or so, and even the Denmark president came out and talked about it the other day, saying they don't know what these things are. So it's happening again. It's starting again, getting near to the Christmas time, which it was last year.
Yes.
Is it going to happen again?
Well, it's really interesting when the timing of it, because you just kind of hit the mark on here. When you get closer to Christmas or a main holiday, at least in the U.S., people at first would not look, especially if it's around a holiday. People have seen these drones. For example, I do recall watching New Year's Eve or something where in Japan, I don't know if it's Japan or China or some country, where they would literally have their drones create these beautiful pictures and shapes and stuff like that in the sky. So then the first thing you think of is, oh, somebody's putting on an aerial act somewhere, and there must be something going on that we never heard about. So we discard it at first, thinking it's something that someone else is doing, and then all of a sudden you come to realize that no, maybe someone wasn't doing anything at all. And so that's what happens. It's kind of people, not to put people in mass hysteria, but I mean, if you see these things, we don't know where they're coming from. We don't know who's doing it. We don't know if it's our own government doing it. We don't know if somebody else is doing it for whatever. Yeah, it's pretty interesting, isn't it? Denmark, huh? I had no idea. I was planning.
Yeah,
wow.
I mean, I've seen UFOs in the sky. I don't know if I shared that with you last time. Did I share that with you?
Go ahead again.
So when I was 14 years old, this is the first time I'd say I saw a UFO. I put it in the UFO category. Again, it was very strange. It was a beautiful summer's day, and we was all playing football in the street. Me, my friends, my brother, soccer. We was playing soccer in the street, and it was my brother and a few other friends, and we'd do this all the time through the summer. It's very normal on a summer's day, and I don't know who it was. One of us has stopped the game and like pointed to the sky and said, "What is that in the sky?" And we all looked, and this sounds wild, but it was like a futuristic building that you would see in Dubai. You know, like these wild shapes. If you picked one of them up and just put it really high up in the sky and just let it float. Yeah, that is what we saw, and I know that sounds wild, but we're watching this for like 5 minutes, whatever it was. We're all going through what it could be. Is it a balloon? You know, is it a plane? But this thing wasn't moving; it was just there. You know, so if it was a balloon or anything like that, it would be moving. It wasn't. All I can say is it looked like a futuristic build. It's like nothing I've seen before or since, to be honest. Was it one of them? Was it just one? It was just one. And it was like an orange and silver colour. And what is really weird is me and my brother, and I can't remember what friends we were with that day. I mean, I'm sure I could work out what friends we were with, but I've only spoke with my brother recently about this. So we kind of I didn't forget this experience, because you can't, but we never spoke about it, me and my brother. So literally that day we've watched this thing in the sky for about 5-10 minutes, whatever it was, and then we've just started playing soccer again. You know, which is mad now, because if I was, you know, I was 14 then, and I was into this sort of stuff then as well, but I would watch that forever now to see what that was, where it flew off, if it disappeared. You know, I'd watch that for days. But we just started playing soccer again, and that really bugs me. And then I didn't forget this memory, but it was like we never spoke about it, me and my brother. And when I started Let's Get Freaky podcast, I kind of wrote all the weird stuff that I'd experienced down, just so when I'm doing the show that I can, you know, I had that then, and you know, and I was on, you know, Cat Ward, Paranormal Heart. Oh yeah, she's a really good friend of mine. I'm actually interviewing her next week. Oh, awesome. I love Kat. I was on her show, first time I'd ever done a podcast, and I'm talking about all my weird stuff that I'd experienced, and we'd started talking about UFOs, and this memory just came back to me, and I was like, wow, have I not remembered that? That's amazing. And I told her, and she put the episode out a few days later, and my brother listened to the episode because it was like the first time I was on a podcast. So he listened to it and he called me up and he went, bruv, what did we see that day and why have we never spoken about it? Because he remembered it as well. And I was like, I'm so glad you remembered that, because I started thinking, how can that not be like always on my mind? Because it was incredible what we saw. He saw it as well. He remembers it. Oh, my Siri's just come up. You know, because get off, Siri. Oh, Siri just came up. You know what? It's really interesting because my phone will act like that once in a while. My Siri just came up. Sorry, I don't know what happened there. Didn't hear anything. You're lucky. Didn't hear anything. Mine will come up once in a while, and it'll answer me, and I'll go, "I'm sorry, I don't have an answer for that. I never asked you anything." You know, I'm sure people can relate to that. You know, when I call Siri, it doesn't come up. No, I know.
I know, but then all of a sudden you're like, but I have I don't know what it is. It's just, there's a lot of weird things going on lately. We were talking about this before the show, and I'm talking really weird stuff. And so anyone who's listening to this, and by the way, of course, this will be out probably as early as tomorrow at some point. People will be hearing this immediately. But do you not agree, everybody, that there's some weird stuff going on lately? Okay.
Absolutely.
So,
it's getting weirder.
It is getting weirder. No, I noticed that too. I actually said that to my husband tonight. I said, what's going on lately? I can't keep up with all of this, And it's just crazy stuff too. I have to add to your story, which will make you even wonder even more. So Kat Ward, yes, I'm interviewing her about a week from now, give or take a few days. And so you two are kind of following each other on the schedule. And I was also her first. So, by the way.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so you and I have something in common. We're each other's first on somebody's show. Isn't that weird?
That's wild. Yeah.
I know. So
synchronicities.
I know it is.
Coincidences. I don't believe in coincidences.
Well, I do. I know she said for me to contact you, which is really, I'm so grateful I did, but it's just like, I just said, and not only that, let's add to your story. So last year, and let's add just a couple days from this point here, going into this coming weekend. A very good psychic that I met in Utah was going to this conference that I'm also going to, and by the time this airs, the conference will not have started yet, or it is over by the time you hear and watch this. But anyway, what you describe is exactly what this psychic saw. She was driving from Iowa to Illinois, and I don't know, there must have been some kind of a ridge or some kind of a small mountain. And she said, I ran into her just to say hello to her at the conference. And she goes, you'll never believe what I saw this morning. And I said, oh, what did you see? Because this place where I'm going, by the way, is incredibly active, and there's not a lot nice people or apparitions there. So I just hope to be put into the classroom this time that won't come after me. But anyway, what you describe is what she saw going over the ridge and then coming down. 6 of them, though. They were kind of, they're kind of square. She says, I've never seen anything like this in my life. And so she flipped over this piece of paper that when I was and I met her and I said hi. And she goes, you never believe what I saw this morning. And then all of a sudden she goes, and I go, what? And she flips over this piece of paper because while she was just sitting there waiting for someone to get a reading, she drew out what she saw. And what she saw was something very similar to what you described. These things that look kind of shaped like this in the air, but 6 of them hovering together, and then they just kind of went over a ridge, and then they just suddenly disappeared. Well, it wasn't a drone. It was not drones. It wasn't anything like balloons because they were square. She says it was just the craziest thing. And she was actually quite nervous that she saw these things. And I don't know why, but that's interesting. Did you say, though, they had a color on them other than silver or?
Yes. Yeah. So it was like an orange and silver, like mixed. It's very difficult. Like, when I look at it in my mind now, it was like, I picture windows and stuff in it, but I think I'm adding that. I think I'm adding that to it now because you couldn't really see that. It was just basically a weird shape that I can't even. It was long, but there was like components to this thing, if that makes sense. Yeah. And it was like orange and silver. Yeah. And I can imagine now that it did have like windows on it, but I think I'm just like, as I'm remembering this, adding that on, I can't tell if there's windows on it. This is so far in the distance, but it was not moving at all, and I was 14 at the time. So this is over 20 years ago now, so there wasn't, there probably was drones. We probably did have drones then that they didn't tell us about, I'm sure. But, drones weren't, we didn't know anything. Drones wasn't even a thing then, for
no, it wasn't.
Normal people. Yeah. So I had no idea what this thing was. And it it must have been pretty big, but it was very high up, you know.
Yeah.
And the only way I can really describe it is if you picked up a building, like a famous building in the US,
Yeah.
threw it up into the sky and just let it float. That's basically what it was.
Yeah. Yeah. She described hers as like, they're probably a little bit more awkward shape, but if you can imagine like refrigerators, you know, rump, 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 6 of them hovering together. And this was a year ago, almost to the day of this. So I don't know. Maybe she will, she just said she was incredibly nervous. She just could hardly believe what she saw, and they were just all like a little group together, and they weren't drones, but whatever they were, or let's just say, if hypothetically, let's just say the government had something to do with it, or they're testing something out, or whatever the case may be. I don't know. I don't know of any areas per se. There's a lot of missile sites that are literally underground in places that people don't even know about unless, you know, they have to come up all of a sudden and do whatever, which I hope will, you know, if that happens, we're all done, you know. But the thing is, it's like, yeah, it's very interesting, isn't it? Because with the way people are these days too, you don't know what to believe anymore, and you don't know how. There was what happened. Oh, I got to tell you this because it's so crazy. Oh yeah, I was at the airport just a day ago, coming back from Philadelphia, and the fire alarm was going off inside the airport. And it kept saying, there is a fire that's been, you know, pronounced in here, and all this, and all the things were going off and everything. And would you believe that nobody, including the security guards or whatever, nobody even reacted to even caring about it? All people care about is getting to their plane site in time and getting out. So they don't pay attention to things. Yeah. It was literally saying there is a fire in the building, and there was a fire truck outside the building, but we were all just like, now where is the one that I have to fly out? You know, everybody does. No one cares. Isn't that weird?
It is. My friend was telling me the other day. He was working in a store. I can't remember where it was, somewhere in the UK. He's working in like a store, and he said that the store suddenly had a gas leak. Like,
oh God,
everyone could smell it. Like, it was bad. They put the alarms on. Everyone's got to get out. Everyone's got to get out. And he said, people, you wouldn't believe how many people were like, oh, can I just finish my shopping?
Exactly.
He's like, no, you got to get out. We're gonna blow up.
Yeah, I know. We're gonna blow up.
I've only got to get a couple of bits. I've only got to get a few bits, and I'll be out. No, get out.
Well, and I can.
You're right. People just, it's like, I don't know.
No, I can add to that. I used to work in a casino 30 years ago, and 10 years after that or whatever, a tornado. Now, over here in the United States, we've got small to very, very large casinos. I'm talking about a very large casino. Well, the tornado hit the casino, and people were told to get out of their chairs and get either on the floor or go into the tornado area or whatever, because the tornado literally did hit the building, and there was like glass literally broken and schmoon. Would you believe that people refused? They refused to leave their seat, because I know you got all this money in this thing, just waiting for it to finally hit and all that. And then even a tornado and glass being splattered everywhere inside wouldn't even budge them out of their seats. See, that's the thing.
Wild.
We're so, what's the word for it? Calloused, numb. Maybe that's what I'm trying to figure out to a lot of this stuff these days, that if a UFO or some Martian walked up to us on the street, we would think it was some carnival act rather than something to be concerned about or whatever. Do you know? It's just, I don't know. How's the general feeling over where you're at? Do people buy into this, or do you just kind of go about your day and just don't really talk about this?
Yeah, it's kind of wild, because like I would say the UK is probably the same in the US. Like, our news cycle is pretty much the same.
Yeah.
I would say that UK, if you watch the news channel in the UK today, it's pretty much going to be the same as what's going on in the US. You know, there will obviously be some things based more on the UK, but predominantly, you know, Trump is on every news channel in the UK constantly, and so our channels are pretty much the same. Yeah. It is very strange, because obviously the UFO concept is everywhere now. You know, it's all over mainstream news.
Yeah.
I think most people that I talk to in the UK will accept that there's more out there. You know, you don't get the look that you used to get when you talked about this stuff. I think now, with the world that we live in now, if you don't believe in this stuff, you're kind of strange, because how can you not?
Yeah,
there's so much evidence, you know, and I know they're talking about this. I've forgotten the name of it, but there's this comet / ship heading towards Earth. Have you heard about this?
Oh, you mean like a meteorite type of that?
Yeah, that's probably. Yeah, I mean that.
And it's kind of like it could miss. I know I've heard about this a couple times, and it could miss us, or I don't know. Where is it? Where does it think it's going now?
I mean, they're saying it's not going to be like we're going to be able to see it, I believe, but it's not going to be affecting us too much. Yeah. But you know, some people saying these are UFOs and stuff like that. But there's even like big scientists at Oxford University talking about this and saying it could be something, you know, that we've not experienced before, which is quite strange. And it's quite a big thing to think that there's something, even if it's just a big meteorite that's moving in a weird way, even that's pretty strange, and that's pretty amazing, you know, to be honest. No one's talking about that. You know, that I find that quite strange. So I guess people just, you know, I think people are, you know, generally there's so much going on. Yeah. People working and stuff like that they just haven't got time to worry about UFOs. The news cycle's constant. There's a lot of wild stuff going on that we see in the news cycle alone. You know, I think just people haven't got time for UFOs and stuff, apart from us.
Well, no, we're the same thing. It's like so distracted, so busy, so distracted. It's like, can you hold on for an hour while I finish what I'm doing here first, and then I'll think about what you're trying to present. That's really what it is. We're just, I don't know what it is, but we've gotten busy. You know, people are just busier than usual, busier than normal. A lot of people are working more than one job because they have to live, and the whole 10 yards, you know, and then we've got all kinds of things, just that so many things to distract us that, you know, if a cloud went over the sun and stayed there, we might notice maybe 24 hours later that it never moved, but not up until that point. We just think it's a stuck cloud, you know? So strange. So
it's very weird. People don't sit for like 10 minutes doing nothing now. That's quite rare.
Very rare.
You're on your cell phone. You're constantly busy. Time just, I don't know about you, but this year,
I know,
seems like it's gone
by very fast.
Seems like it's Christmas like yesterday.
Yes.
And yet we're looking at Christmas, you know, it's nearly back.
So I talk about this with my husband every year, because especially when you get older, and only maybe, I think you're probably maybe 20 years younger than I am. I don't know, or maybe
I'm 38.
38 and I'm 64. So and you're very on top of it. I call you a young chap, you know, you're very on top of it. And just think, by the time you get to be 64, just imagine what you're going to know. By the time you get to 64, I'll be dead in the ground. Let's put it that way.
Who knows what's going on?
I could be flying around you and trying to get your attention too. But you know, the thing is that each year goes faster and faster and faster. I cannot remember this. Don't quote me. Not sure. I thought I heard last year at some point somebody put something out there on the news or whatever that that the earth sped up like a fraction of a second. It was just something really like a fraction of a second. And all of a sudden that just, you know, are we moved a fraction or something very small, like not even enough to even notice. But the thing is we have noticed everything just seems to be, it just won't slow down. And we just had Christmas, and now we're at Christmas all over again.
It's coming back. I know, it's terrible.
I know. That's what I said. It's like, what?
I love Christmas, but
I know. I love Christmas too.
It's stressful.
I know. Well, and I can't remember how much snow you guys get, but when we get a lot of snow, it's a pain in the butt in Minnesota. If we don't, we're like, oh, where's some of the more snow? But it's not like we like snow, because that's just, you know, too much is too much. Just right is nice, but too much is too much, right? Do you get snow? I don't know if
we do. Not too bad. I'm on the coast, so I'm right by the sea. So that's apparently you don't get a lot of snow when you're right on the coast. But I don't mind snow. I guess for you're fed up with it. But we only get it for like 3 or 4 days, and when we do, everything comes to a stop.
That's right. Because
we can't handle it.
You don't have the equipment to figure out how to get rid of it.
Yeah. The train stop. You can't drive anywhere.
I know. It's just like, hold it. Yeah, I know. It's so weird. Well, the thing is, I used to live in Maryland, and that's the way it was in Maryland. The whole place would shut down because they didn't have. That's only for an inch of snow. Here we get an inch. It's like, oh, for God's sakes, you're a baby, you know. And just like, can't drive in that. Yeah, you can get out there and go drive in it. Ever drive in a blizzard before where you can't see the road? That's when you start to get a little nervous and scared. But yeah, I know it's really hard to believe, and I'm sure some people are going, why are they talking about Christmas? I'm just like, because it's fun, everybody. It's fun. Okay, so I was just out in Pennsylvania. Speaking of the weather, and of course the leaves out in the Poconos are just starting to change, and so we didn't get the full-fledged yet. We just barely got the start of it, which was pretty enough for the way it was. But when I was out there, I stayed at a couple of bed and breakfasts. One in particular that was the year 1700, and then built on also in 1800, and had a lot of unrest in that area. Massacres, was really, really, really super bad in that area. But I was talking to the owner, and she learned who I was because she didn't even know if the place was really haunted or not, and I kind of told her it was a little bit, but it was friendly. But she brought up something that her friend had brought to her attention, which was her friend said she saw something that they call owl man. And I had never really I've heard of Mothman, but I've never really heard of owl man. And I said, are you sure it just wasn't an owl with a large wingspan? She goes, no. She said she thought that too. She says, no, it was really, really a huge span. And I said, eye color? Probably didn't notice. But what do you know about Owl Man?
It's interesting because where I live now, I'm based in Dorset, but just not too far, 2 hours up the road, 3 hours up the road, you've got Cornwall, which is a very spooky, magical place. I don't know if you've heard about Cornwall. A lot of pixie laws and stuff like that there. Really cool place. But there is an Owlman law there. And I can't remember the name of the church off the top of my head, but there's a church where I believe, I don't know if it was 2 girls, saw what they described, what they called the Owlman. And I believe there was a few sightings of this cryptid, and it was literally described the same as a Mothman. So red eyes, it was like 6 foot tall, wings, completely black, I believe. And they called it the Owlman. And I always found that interesting because obviously you think of the Mothman, you could if someone else was naming it, you could call it an Owlman as well. We've called it a Mothman, but it could be an Owlman as well. And then this is what I find so interesting about cryptids in general, Bigfoot, all these cryptids, is that they're all over the world. The same things are being seen all over the world. And this happened, I believe this Owlman sighting, I can't remember the actual dates, but it goes before like internet and stuff like that, before people were communicating like we do now. And so these stories are all around the world describing the same creatures, but just maybe different names. Bigfoot is in every culture around the world. It has a different name, but it's the same thing, and people are experiencing the same thing. So I've always found that interesting with the Cornish Owlman. I've always kind of thought maybe that's the UK's Mothman,
Right.
Yeah. But owls are very, there's a big link between owls and like ufology and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. The owls get put in like the alien bracket as well. There seems to be a connection there. A lot of abductees and things like that kind of put some of their experiences with owls as well. I guess you've heard that.
Yeah, there was someone that I interviewed, and I'm just all of a sudden you kind of tripped the trig of some, I can't remember who it was, and that part doesn't matter. But she said that she was driving down the road, and there was this absolutely humongous owl standing positioned in the middle of the road, just waiting for them to approach. And I said, well, was that just a regular owl that just was landing there? She said, no, this was an oversized, humongous owl that just was not what it was supposed to be. I said, well, what did it do? It just sat there and just kind of stared at us. And, then all of a sudden it just, I don't know if it even left or whatever, but I think there's something to do with the abduction thing on that. Yeah, so one of the things that I found really interesting was when I was at this bed and breakfast, the owner, she had brought up because she had recently figured out who I was because I told her. She said that a friend of hers, probably about a month ago, had seen something that had looked like this big owl in a tree, just sitting there. But that, at the point that it decided that it was going to fly off the branch, it was obviously not an owl, but something greater and bigger. And so she asked me, and she said, have you ever heard of Owl Man? And I said, no. Are you sure it wasn't Mothman? Because that's what we're used to here in the Midwest hearing about. I don't think I've ever heard of Owl Man. What have you heard? Or what do you know about Owl Man?
Well, I actually had a guest on that shared a very similar experience to what you shared, and he's Mark Anthony Wyatt, a really cool dude. He's a musician, very much into the paranormal as well, and has had quite a lot of experiences. And one big experience that he had, and it was in Cornwall as well, and where the English Owlman / Mothman is based, and he said he was driving down a country road. Now in Cornwall, the country roads are very narrow. You can barely fit two cars down. In a lot of places you can't fit two cars. If you see another car, you have to kind of pull over and let the other one go. It can be a nightmare. But he said he's going down these country lanes, and it was late at night because he was picking up his son from a night out, I believe, and he's driving down, and he'd had quite a few weird experiences in the lead up to this as well. That day, he said, was quite strange. I believe he had a bit of possible missing time that day as well, which he kind of at the time didn't think too much of, but then with this experience he put it all together. And he said he was driving down this country lane, and in the middle of the road was this 6 foot tall giant owl. He said that's what it was, and he just stopped, and he was just kind of in awe of this thing, obviously, because it's in the middle of the road. And he said he's watched it for like a few minutes, whatever it was, and this thing just like flew at the car, flew off. Now he said he got a weird vibe. He said it was an owl, but he said he just had this feeling that this was, like, as you said, more than an owl. This was something different. He said he got like my series come up again.
Probably wants to. Does it want to define Owl Man for us? Is that it?
That's the second time. That's weird. It normally happens once, not twice.
I know. Yeah.
So he said he kind of he said as this thing flew off, it kind of gave him a vibe that it was like some sort of entity, more than an owl. He doesn't know what, but he got a feeling this was like more than just an owl, and something, and that was kind of the start of like big changes in his life. And he was living in Cornwall at the time, and then not long after that he moved to the US, and now he lives in the US, and and he kind of puts it back to that night. He says that was kind of the trigger for new beginnings, very strange. And it's very strange how people are seeing these same things.
Anything negative happened to him, or did he think that this was a sign of something else? Because when a person has an interaction with that, and I'm going to relate this to the UFOs in just a moment, but did anything like really negative happen to him after that?
I think because he sort of sees the missing time as a negative.
Yeah.
But that happened in the build-up. That happened before he saw this entity, whatever it was. But I believe he kind of sees it as a positive, because it kind of set him on the path, he says, to where he is now. And I guess he's happy now, which is good. And that was kind of the start of it, I believe. So maybe he had to have that moment. Who knows why. And then you look at life, and sometimes weird things do happen that seem out of place, but sort of leads you onto a path that you might not have took if that didn't happen. So
kind of like the story of my life. But that's definitely true. The thing is about I'm going to use the word shape shifting here for a second. Shape shifting, for those of you who are not familiar at all with this, and I'm going to be interviewing actually a guest I had on 3 years ago, pretty soon. She has a shape-shifting object in her home that was acquired when a male friend of hers was a big collector on antique objects from over in these third world countries. And this man bought this one object that was very cursed, and what it does is when people get too close to it or whatever, it actually shape shifts its energy into something else, so it can never actually be found or taken out of her house or wherever, and it growls too. So, and it does some really big things. So when I'm relating shape shifting to the owl, I'm thinking to myself, shapeshifter kind of entity, but isn't it interesting how they would pick something like an owl, that a lot of people, they know owls and they trust owls and they look at them as being wise. I don't know the whole 10 yards, but when you're 6 to 7 feet tall, that's definitely not an owl. It's definitely something very bizarre. You know what I mean? It's like Mothman.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
The missing time aspect is very interesting too, because how many of us kind of once in a while fizz out, and they would call them temporary. They had a word for it, but going into this temporary trance-like state or dream-like state, and then all of a sudden realizing it's 2 hours later, and you wonder what you did to all of a sudden it's 2 hours later, right? And you never can tell whether it's a time issue or what. Did he ever say what kind of time he was quote unquote missing when he was talking to you?
I'm not sure. I don't believe it was a huge amount of time, but it was enough time for him to kind of realize that he had missing time. It's like he was kind of disorientated because he had to pick up his son from an event. Yeah, I can't remember what the event was, but he was kind of waiting for his call, and I think he kind of, he missed his like lots of calls from his son. Yeah, and it kind of he didn't really understand why that was, and then he's obviously rushing to pick him up, and on the way he sees this owl. Now he also, I believe he said something like maybe that was stopping an accident or something like that. Maybe he was about to have an accident and there was some kind of intervention. He thinks that's possible as well. So I don't know, but it kind of was a positive impact for him. I mean that would be scary. You're driving through a dark country lane and you see a 6 foot tall owl. You know, I'm going to freak out,
Yeah. Well, I'm certainly not going to run after it. I'm probably going to stop and when he's talking country lanes, everybody, we're talking a small car, the size of a small car, where if you're hoping something's not coming from the other side, because obviously in some cases you've got to back up probably. Yeah. And I am very surprised because with the amount of driving I've done over in your countries over there, my goodness, I don't know what people do as a courtesy, if they do back up or what, because they are really narrow. Only one vehicle can get in there. You really can't get two side by side or even pull over. Someone's going to have to back up or something.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, there's nobody like, and the locals, they're so used to it, so they're bombing it down these country lanes. Yeah. When you're not used to it, it's a little bit,
Yeah. That's crazy.
Pretty wild.
The thing is with the UFO aspect, I was just interviewing somebody, and I had heard this before anyway, that, there's a lot of people that would be really curious to want to go and approach or touch a UFO. And she had mentioned something that she had actually been in one when she was younger, looking out one of the windows, and one of the extraterrestrials or whatever had said to her, take your hand off the window, because it's not a window, it's actually the form of the the body of the shape of the UFO, but it was actually kind of like a living organism. And it was, so that's really crazy when you think about it too, is that can you even imagine a UFO craft where the shell of it, or is actually a living thing rather than the shell like we would have over here, steel or something like that. Have you ever heard of it?
It's interesting you say that. It's interesting you say that, because I've got an experience that I saw something that I can only describe as possibly a living organism. This is bizarre. So I was 27 when this happened, around that kind of age. So it was about 10 years ago, and me and my mother-in-law both saw this. So I've got a witness. Together we both saw this. It was a lovely summer's day, beautiful summer's day, and this was in the same place as where I'd seen when I was 14. It was in Brentwood, where I used to live in Essex. A little bit, about 10 minutes down the road, this took place. I'd moved out of home, and I was living in like a flat, and I was on the full floor of this flat, which was the top floor, and it was a beautiful summer's day, and me and my mother-in-law were standing at the window just talking. Can't remember what we was talking about, but there was like a forested area opposite the flats, and we're just talking away, and we've noticed 3 objects have come out of the forest. Right, they weren't that big, but they were quite close to us. I would say they were like the size of a basketball. They weren't very big, they were quite small, but we could see them very clearly because it was very close. And there was three of them, and they were kind of moving around each other like they were connected, but they weren't actually touching. They were like just floating around each other. They seemed to be making like a triangle kind of shape, but they weren't actually touching. And these 3 objects, they were like a silvery color, and they were constantly changing shape, like all 3 of them, and they were never the same shape. They were constantly changing. And it was like, when I described this, have you seen the Terminator when he's melting? It was like that kind of look, that kind of color, that kind of look. It was very strange. And we're watching this, and they're floating up, and they're moving around, constantly changing shape. And we're watching this for a good 5 minutes. We've got a good look at this, and we're trying to work out what it is. We're saying, are they balloons? Trying to, work out what they are. And they're just floating up and up and up, and we're following them all the way to the sky. You can see that, and they've got really small, and then all of a sudden they've just gone flash, 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 and these 3 objects have just shot into the atmosphere. And me and my mother-in-law looked at each other, and we were like, what the heck have we just seen? And nobody's going to believe us. I was so glad that she was with me there, because I've had a lot of experience where I've been on my own, but it is nice to be with someone, where you can say, what did you think that was? And every family party we're at now, we talk about this, and the other family members are kind of looking around like, it was balloons, no? And we're like, no, it definitely wasn't balloons. These were not balloons. We got a good look at these things. They seem to be like a living organism. That is where I put it now. But the way they shot off into the atmosphere was like, balloons don't do that, and you could see like the flash.
Were they on the ground originally, or were they hovered above the ground and just doing their thing?
I think that, because when we first saw them, we noticed them floating up. I believe they come from the forested area, but I'm not quite sure. But they were very close to us. They were like very close. We got a great look at it. And, I guess had we not seen how they shot off, you might think, is it some type of balloon? But it really, wasn't like anything I'd ever seen. And I've always put that in the UFO bracket. I don't really know what that was, And it wasn't until kind of looking more into UFOs and, living organisms, as you said, in the sky, there seems to be something to that. Sometimes these things are not like ships, they're like a jellyfish in the sky or something like that,
Yeah, I talked to somebody who actually saw one of those, like a jellyfish type thing. Oh my goodness. I'm going to have you back again. I mean,
I'd love to.
You're just so fun to talk to. My God. This one's going to be a fun snip and clip. I'm telling you, I'm going to be going, I think, I would keep this part in. It's going to be just an interesting segment all around once I'm done with it. But why don't you tell everybody a little bit about, if they want to reach out to you, interview you, listen to your podcast, tell everyone a little bit about that.
So thank you it's been such a pleasure, and I'm happy to come back as many times as you're happy to have me. Love talking to you, so thank you. We are Let's Get Freaky Podcast, Tommy Cullum's Let's Get Freaky Podcast, wherever you listen to podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, all the podcast players, we're there. We're also on YouTube as well. You can watch a lot of our videos there as well, full interviews. And if you want to share paranormal experiences, you can get in touch on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, X. Yeah, there's so many different ones, but it's TC Let's Get Freaky Podcast, and the logo is my ginger face, little cartoon ginger face with a Bigfoot, a UFO, and a ghost, because we get into all aspects of the paranormal.
I'll make sure I have all of this in the show notes, so that way people can, it's a pre-recorded show, and you know how that works. You can come in when you want to and leave when you want to and come back. So
yeah, you can pause it and then
pause it and keep it paused for a long time before you're. This has been a pleasure, and I am and most people don't realize that it's probably 4 o'clock in the morning or 5 a.m.
10 to 4.
10 to 4 a.m. where he's talking to me from. Yeah, I'm telling you, we need to get this boy to bed. So
thank you for watching and listening to Paranormal Latte Podcast. We